Welcome to the Private School Leader Podcast, where private school leaders learn how to thrive and not just survive as they serve and lead their schools. I strongly believe that it is possible to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And my passion is to help you figure out exactly how to do just that, right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And I'm your host, Mark Minkus. So we all have pet peeves, and most of mine happen at the grocery store. So, you walk up to the 10 items or fewer line at the grocery store, and I see somebody that's got like 30 items. So that's a pet peeve. And then someone's walking really slow in front of me, or they're taking up the whole aisle with their cart sideways and standing there looking, and so I just turn around and go up a different aisle. Or I'm going out the exit and someone's coming in the exit with their whole family. And again, pet peeves, they're these small things. I don't know why most of mine happen at the grocery store. But my latest is, and maybe you're experiencing this too, is I'll be on Instagram or something, or on reading an article, and there will be these pop-up ads, but then the X to X out of the pop-up ad is this tiny, tiny little X. And I'm not known for my small motor skills around here. Like, I'm not allowed to open a cereal box at our house because it looks like a vandal opened it. But, these tiny little X's. And then, of course, the reason they're tiny is so that you accidentally tap on the pop-up ad and then you go to that ad. So, pet peeves are these just annoyances, and we all have them in our lives, and, they're really not that big of a deal. But I think there's a big difference between a pet peeve and a valid frustration. And what I'm noticing is in a lot of my coaching calls with my coaching clients, conversations in the PSL Pro membership, emails that I'm getting from podcast listeners, that there's one frustration that especially this year seems to be coming up again and again. And I would say that it's probably been mentioned by at least 60% of my coaching clients about how frustrated they are with it. So what is this big frustration? It's teachers coming to you with a tier 1 issue, academic issue, behavior issue, a teacher coming to you before they do that one more thing. Okay, so they're things that teachers are supposed to do. So like a low-level misbehavior issue, a low-level academic issue, something that they should be able to handle themselves, that's reasonable for them to handle a tier 1 issue themselves, and they're involving you. They're involving admin. So the frustration is teachers involving admin way earlier than they should because they don't do that one more thing. They don't call the parent. They don't move the kid's seat. They don't cut the number of math homework problems in half. And they don't do the thing that is reasonable for a teacher to do, and they involve you too soon. Okay? And so the problem is that when this happens, there's all kinds of issues that come, for you. We're going to talk about some of those in just a moment. But this idea of teachers doing that one more thing instead of all involving admin too soon, I would say is a really big frustration right now. So on today's episode of the Private School Leader Podcast, we are going to discuss the number one frustration of private school leaders right now and what to do about it. So I want to ask you a quick question before we jump into today's topic, and that is, what is your biggest struggle at school right now? What is your biggest struggle at school? Well, I want to hear more about your biggest struggle, and I want to help you. And it also could be that maybe things are going great at school right now and you don't really have a biggest struggle that comes to mind. Probably most of you, something popped into your head immediately when I asked you, what is your biggest struggle right now at school? But maybe things are going great. And so then I would say, well, what is your biggest goal for the rest of this school year? So I want to hear more about your biggest struggle. I want to hear more about your biggest goal. And I actually want to help you overcome your biggest struggle or help you reach your biggest goal. And the way that I can do that is that I have one coaching spot open right now. And I want to work with you one-on-one. I want to help you with your biggest struggle. I want to help you overcome that. I want to help you reach your biggest goal. And just shoot me an email, mark.o.minkus@gmail.com, and just say, tell me more. So I have one coaching spot open right now. Would love for you to reach out, mark.o.minkus@gmail.com. And then we're talking about teachers today. And so I wonder if you ever have teacher drama at your school. Yes. Do you ever have teacher drama at your school? Of course you do. And so I'm talking about gossip, triangulation. That's where teacher A has a problem with teacher B, but they don't go to teacher B. They come to you. Toxic politeness, where everyone just is really nice to each other, but they're really rolling their eyes and not getting along. And, this is just, and having disproportionate reactions to like microaggressions. So I don't know if I just described any of the teachers at your school. But if you have any teacher drama at your school, I want to help you with that, because I have a resource called 5 Strategies to Reduce Teacher Drama at Your School. And this is a 9-page PDF that will give you some strategies that will help you actually reduce the teacher drama. So if that is something that you need help with, then go to theprivateschoolleader.com/drama to grab your free guide. That's 5 Strategies to Reduce Teacher Drama at Your School. Grab that at theprivateschoolleader.com/drama. Okay, so on today's episode, we're talking about the number one frustration that I'm seeing with private school leaders this year or right now. And we're going to identify the problem. We're going to talk about 4 reasons why your teachers might be doing this. And then most importantly, stick around because I'm going to give you 5 strategies on how to fix it. So let's just focus on what is the problem. So again, I said before that teachers are coming to admin with tier 1 stuff. Okay. So if it's a low level, let's say it's like a classroom level intervention, it's like an everyday behavior issue. It's like kind of a basic academic concern that's bubbling up, like just the routine stuff that teachers should be able to handle. But instead of doing the one more thing, and I said it before in the introduction, the moving the kid's seat, calling the parent, reducing the homework problems, trying a different type of differentiation for that child, making sure that the child is actually meeting expectations for the classroom procedures and routines with their behavior, the things that teachers should be doing, that instead of that, they're coming to you. Tier 1 thing happens, they're coming to you. And here's the thing. I think, honestly, we need to call this what it is. And it's like, I don't know so much that they're coming to you for help as much as they want to like transplant their frustration or their discomfort. They want to hand it off to you. They want you to handle the thing that they don't want to handle. And so then what happens is you're already playing whack-a-mole with one hand and putting out fires with a tiny fire extinguisher in the other hand. And you don't have the time to do the tier 1 stuff of all of your teachers, but you're a nice guy, you're a nice gal, you're a helper, you're a servant leader, and all of those things are true and all of those things are good, but we have to make sure that teachers are doing what they're supposed to do so that we have time to do what we're supposed to do. And then when you say, okay, yeah, sure, I'll get involved or I'll help, then you become the classroom manager and the disciplinarian and the person who's going to call the parent and the tutor. And now you're the customer service department for your teachers. And this is not sustainable. And here's the problem. There's multiple problems with this, but one of the problems is that when you handle it, when you say, okay, I'll get involved. When you say, yeah, sure, I'll take a look, or I'll talk to Jimmy, or I'll fill in the blank, okay? Then, no, first of all, your teachers become less resilient. Your teachers don't improve their problem-solving skills. You're reinforcing that tier 1 issues should be brought to you. You're feeding the beast when you handle tier 1 stuff. And then if you give a mouse a cookie, they want a glass of milk. And so my point is, I don't even think your teachers are realizing this intentionally or consciously, but subconsciously what I've seen happens is leaders who help out with tier 1 issues that teachers should be doing one more thing to handle, then that teacher, like I said, you give a mouse a cookie, they come with something that is a less acute issue more often. It doesn't go away. It isn't like you solve someone's tier 1 issue and then you never hear from them again. It lowers the standard for, it lowers that threshold for what is an admin issue, what is an issue that they should bring to you. What we want is to build resilience and build problem-solving skills, and for our teachers to follow through and do things that are reasonable for teachers to do. I don't want you to hear me saying, well, our teachers just need to do their jobs. That's not what I'm saying. Our teachers work hard. Our teachers do a really, really good job. What I'm saying is that we need our teachers to do things that are reasonable for teachers to do, and we need our teachers to do things that are their responsibility to do and not hand them off to you too soon. Okay. So the last thing that I want to mention about why this is a problem is when you are handling tier 1 issues, then you get to start on your work when the school gets quiet. You're handling tier 1 stuff that they should be doing one more thing to handle, and you do that all day, and then your teachers leave with a pep in their step at a reasonable time, and the kids leave and the teachers leave and the school gets quiet, and that's when you start on your work. It doesn't have to be that way. And so again, I'm not blaming your teachers. I'm just trying to illuminate a pattern of a thing that's going on, okay? So sometimes when there's a thing that's going on, it's helpful to understand why is it happening. So I just quickly want to give you 4 reasons why I think this may be happening with your teachers, and then I'll give you those 5 strategies to make it better. So reason number 1 why this might be happening is because maybe some of your teachers lack confidence in their toolbox. So let's say that there's a teachers have a toolbox for classroom management. They have a toolbox for academic issues. And maybe they don't know what that one more thing that I keep talking about, maybe they don't know what that looks like. Maybe they're a newer, a novice teacher, a less experienced teacher, and they don't have all the tools in their toolbox that they need. Or maybe they tried one thing and it didn't work immediately and they start feeling stressed or they start feeling anxious. And so they think, well, that didn't work. And so now I need to go to admin. I need to go to my supervisor. I need to go to my division head or to my head of school and say, hey, I need you to help with this. So one of the reasons might be that they don't have confidence in their toolbox, or they don't know with behavior or with academics, maybe they don't know yet what is that one more thing. Okay. Another reason why this might be happening is because they're exhausted and they want some relief. They don't really want a solution. So it's one thing if a teacher's coming to you or going to a colleague and they sincerely want some help so that they can go back and do the thing. They want a suggestion. They want some advice. What do you think in this situation? And then you make a suggestion. Well, why don't you try this? And then they go back and they do the thing. That's awesome. Like, that is why we're here as private school leaders. But I'm kind of not talking about that. The frustration that I'm seeing with, like I said, my coaching clients and PSL Pro members, what I'm seeing is that it's like they didn't try the thing and then immediately their first thought is, oh, well, I'm just going to go to admin. And that's especially true when the thing that they should do is to call the parent. And I'll talk about that in a second, but we know that our teachers are worn out. We know that emotional fatigue is a real thing, and all of this is true, but some of them are just kind of wanting you to rescue them and they're not really seeking, well, what is a suggestion, or what is a strategy that I could use here? So I'm not blaming, I'm not shaming, I'm not pointing the finger. I'm just trying to shine a light on maybe why this is happening. Okay, and then the third reason why I think it's happening, and this is probably the most common reason, is because they're afraid of parents. They're afraid of having conflict with the parents at your school. And listen, we know that some parent interactions don't go well. And also we have a negativity bias and a confirmation bias. So if in your school, the third grade teacher hears about this parent and how this meeting went in middle school with this middle school teacher, then even if that third grade teacher doesn't have that parent, they kind of extrapolate and paint with a broad brush and have confirmation bias about all the parents at your school. So I get it. I understand that. And that's true at most private schools, where we have some teachers who are really conflict avoidant in general and don't want to reach out to the parents in particular. But you and I both know when it's tier 1 stuff, like the low-level behavior stuff, the low-level academic issues are bubbling up, the teacher has to reach out to the parent proactively and say, hey, I'm noticing ... Or I wanted to let you know that I'm seeing this, and I'm wondering what you are seeing at home, or at least could you talk to your child, or maybe we can partner together, et cetera, et cetera. So that email or that phone call that they don't want to make, and they want to loop you in right away because they want you to make the phone call because you're good at talking to parents. You're good at making those phone calls. You're good at handling parents, quote unquote. That's probably true, but that doesn't mean that you have to call or email or have meetings with every parent about every issue. There has to be an escalation. I'm going to talk about escalation in a minute, but there has to be escalation of a problem. It can't just be there's a small issue and then boom, it goes right to you. And I'm not saying all your teachers do that, but even if the 80-20 rule is in effect and 20% of your teachers do that, and in my experience, I think it's happening way more than that. Probably closer to 40 or 50% of teachers are leaning toward in this direction of going to admin sooner than they should with a tier 1 issue that they should solve themselves. And so we need to see it, and we need to understand why this is happening. And like I said, I think number 3 is because of conflict avoidance with parents. And then number 4 on reasons why this might be happening is because your school lacks the teacher lacks clarity around what is a tier 1, what is a tier 2, what should I be doing to handle tier 1, when should I go to my administrator. See, we think most of the time, I'm going to speak for myself, but also I hear this a lot from coaching clients. We think that we think our teachers have clarity, but they don't. And so if it's not super crystal clear and universally understood, and in your student handbook and in your employee handbook, and maybe even posted in your faculty lounge, like these are tier 1 behaviors, these are tier 2 behaviors, and that it's clearly understood by your teachers that, okay, so these are the things I should be handling or try to handle, and then these are the things that I take to my boss, my supervisor, my leader, my division head, my head of school. If that isn't super clear in your school, then the culture of your school is go ask admin, or go tell admin, or tell admin to handle this. So we get frustrated. I get frustrated when teachers come to me before they should. But if they don't have clarity on here's a tier 1 and here's a tier 2, and here are the things that you can try before you come see me, then we are part of the problem. So I've identified the problem. I've explained 4 reasons why I think that this might be happening with our teachers in our schools. And so now I want to give you 5 strategies to overcome this frustration. Strategy number 1, pause and view yourself as an escalation officer. Okay? The first thing is the pause. There's power in the pause. You have a bias towards action, and a bias towards problem solving, and a bias towards what's next, and a bias towards expediting everything. And that makes you good at your job. But it also makes you pick up tier 1 issues when teachers hand them to you instead of giving them back. Because we don't pause and think, is this a thing I should do? Or is this a thing the teacher should try one more thing? Okay? So pause and view yourself as an escalation officer. And let me explain what I mean. So I want you to imagine that you work at a T-Mobile call center. And there's 50 people, customer service representatives out on the floor. And you're the supervisor. And those 50 people are on the phone all day. They got their headsets on. And they're fielding customer service questions from T-Mobile customers about their plan or about their phone or their service or their this or their that, okay? And most of those 50 people, most of the time, are able to resolve the issue with the customer. But occasionally, one of those customers says, well, I want to speak to your supervisor. Or the customer service rep is trying to handle things and it's not going well. And the person is getting more upset. And so a T-Mobile call center has an escalation officer, and then that person takes some of the phone calls that the 50 people on the floor can't handle because it escalates above what they're able to do. And I want you to think about all the tier 1 stuff in your school. And of course, when tier 1 stuff is chronic, then it kind of elevates itself to tier 2. So low-level misbehavior, if it's chronic, then it can become a tier 2. Low-level academic issues can become a tier 2. And then, of course, if it is an acute academic issue or an acute behavioral issue, then it goes right to tier 2. And of course, you are going to involve yourself and help resolve tier 2 issues in your school. Yes, tier 2, tier 3, that's where you live. But too many private school leaders are picking up way too many things that are being handed to them that are tier 1 issues. So, number 1, we're going to pause and you're going to view yourself as an escalation officer. Number 2, strategy number 2 is teach and define tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 behaviors with examples. I mentioned this before. How can teachers follow expectations that they've never been taught? How can they know where the lines are between tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 if it was just something that was that exists in the handbook that nobody ever talks about, that was never mentioned during teacher in service, et cetera, et cetera? So you got your tier 1 stuff, talking, calling out off-task behavior, missed homework, very low-level disrespect, executive function organization issues, late to class a couple times, like things that are low-level stuff. Teachers should be handling these things, okay? But then, like I said a minute ago, tier 2, you get repeated disruptions from a student behavior, or just a complete refusal to do work, or maybe they're starting to get aggressive, or maybe it's one of these low-level tier 1 things that's just chronic and the teacher has tried multiple things and it just keeps happening. And then, of course, tier 3 are things like aggression or violence or major behavior issue or, clear disrespect, something that's a safety concern, and so on. Okay. My point is this. We need to make sure that our frustration with teachers is valid, and it's valid only if we've already taught them, defined it, made it super clear, given examples so that they know exactly where tier 1 is, where does tier 2 start, etc. And again, if you're listening to this in real time, this is a busy time of year for you, obviously. This might not be a thing that can just all of a sudden magically appear before the end of this school year, but you could start a Google Doc and you could talk to a couple of your lead teachers or someone else if you have someone else on your leadership team, and be thinking about next summer and updating the handbook, et cetera, and just use some of these other strategies between now and then. But teachers can't follow expectations they've never been taught. Are we frustrated with teachers who are just coming to us right away with tier 1 stuff when we haven't really made it clear what's the difference between tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 behaviors with examples? So teach, define, make it clear. That may be something you can do between now and the end of the school year. That may be a next year thing, but I want to get that on your radar. Okay. Number 3. Strategy number 3, create a before you come to me checklist. Now, I think it's about 80 to 90% of private school leaders at some point came up through as a teacher and used to be in the classroom. Lots and lots of teachers use 3 before me in their classroom. And if you've never heard of that, Google it. But I think most of you have heard of that, 3 before me. So it's a 4th grade classroom, and we want to teach these kids resilience. And so they need a pencil or they need help with something. And I've seen dozens of them over the years. 3 before me, ask a friend, look in the textbook. There's generally like some extra classroom supplies like a pencil or whatever over in this certain area in the classroom. We're trying to teach the kids, instead of coming to the teacher all day long with all of these little things, we're trying to teach them, okay, 3 before me. What are 3 ways that I could try to solve this problem? And if they strike out on all 3, then they go to the teacher. Okay. Well, if that's happening in our classrooms, why isn't that happening with our teachers and admin 3 before me? And so let me just give you, I went to ChatGPT and told ChatGPT what I was looking for. Like, what if we were to create a 3 before me, or try this before you come to me with tier 1 stuff? And it's like, this is what ChatGPT spit out. Number 1, I moved their seat, modified the assignment, modified the assessment, called the parent, documented the behavior, reinforced expectations, used this classroom management strategy, talked privately with the student, and this big long list from ChatGPT. So, again, this might not be something that all of a sudden you are breaking it out. But if this is a big problem in your school and you don't want to spend the second half of the year swimming in tier 1 stuff that your teachers should be doing, then maybe you do want to consider this now. But it's kind of like, what have you tried before you came to me? And it's a list of all the things in your school culture. What do you want the teacher to have tried? What is a list or a suggestion or a grid or a chart or something where here are some things where you could try before you come to me with this tier 1 issue? We're not saying don't ever come to me with a tier 1 issue. We're saying, did you try these things? And if you have this list, if you create this list, it becomes part of the handbook. It's something that goes in their mailbox or on their desk during teacher in service, and maybe again in January. It's something that you get printed up on a poster and you hang it in the faculty lounge. Like, this is something that becomes part of the culture and part of just the brain of the teachers at your school, so that they start to do 3 before me or even 1 before me. Create that checklist. You decide when, you decide where. But I encourage you to give them, we say, well, just try one more thing. Well, do they even know what that is? Give them some suggestions. And then strategy number 4 is listen, but give it back. And I'm going to link the episode. I can't remember the number, but I'll link it. It's like 3 problems that you don't have to solve. And I talked about the crying babies problem, which is kind of a lot of Venn diagram overlap on about you walk around the school and teachers are handing you crying babies. and it's because they don't want to. Is it because they've tried everything they can to get that baby to stop crying, or is it because they don't want to hold a crying baby and they know you're really good at getting babies to stop crying? So I'll link that episode in the show notes at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 165. But just kind of a quick flyby on this one, that, those crying baby problems, when a teacher comes to you with a tier 1 problem, instead of just being like, yeah, sure, no problem, that's when you listen but give it back. Well, you could say, what have you tried so far? And maybe they just kind of mumble something. And you say, I'll tell you what, I want you to try this one more thing. And that's when you have to think on your feet. But you will, because that's what you do all day long. You say, I want you to try this one more thing. Give it a week, and then shoot me an email and let me know how it's going. Because if that doesn't work, I'll be happy to help. I want to say that again, because I want you to hear this. Let's say that you don't have the time. It's not the time of year. It's not feasible for you to come up with this clarity around tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. You're saying that's a next year thing. Okay. And then you're also saying, this checklist, that sounds like a great idea. I'm sure ChatGPT could help me out. And, here's a list of the things that they could try with tier 1 stuff. You're thinking, okay, I don't have time to do that, and maybe that's a next year thing too. Okay, fine. But here's a today thing. Here's a this year thing. Here's a right now thing that you could do. Someone comes up to you and they ask you, or they try to tell you, or whatever, here's a tier 1. You're very clearly, very quickly identified that they're trying to hand you a tier 1 problem crying baby. You just say, hey, tell you what, I want you to try one more thing. And then you tell them what that one more thing is, because you think on your feet. I want you to try one more thing, give it a week, and then email me and let me know how it's going. And if that doesn't work, I'll be happy to help. That can be your script with your teachers. And you're also saying, give it a week and email me. You're not saying that you're going to check in with them. That's too many things for you to remember. Put it on them, give them the suggestion, and then they're probably going to do the thing. And it'll probably get better. And if it doesn't, then you will be happy to help because they tried that one more thing. And then strategy number 5, real quick, is normalize parent phone calls and teach your teachers how to do them. Normalize parent phone calls or parent emails and teach them how to do them. I said this before. Teachers are avoiding calling the parents or emailing the parents because they're afraid. They're afraid of how the parent is going to react. But you could do a PD or a faculty meeting where you teach them how. How. Set the tone, document it, what to say, how to de-escalate, so on and so forth. I have a resource for you, the 7 steps to having a successful meeting with an upset parent. That's at theprivateschoolleader.com/meeting. That could be super helpful for you to then extrapolate that and then, have that help for your teachers. Parent Academy, theprivateschoolleader.com/parent academy has a bunch of great stuff in it. It actually has those 2 plug and play PDs that you could show your teachers at a faculty meeting or at a PD day to teach them how to reduce their anxiety, reduce their fear, and be more proactive with their communication with parents. Honestly, I think that's the best way to do this. You don't have to come up with the PD yourself. You could use Parent Academy. But regardless of how you do it, if you have more confident teachers, you have less escalation. You can give them a script. So again, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I'm saying that they need you, who's better at it than they are, to teach them how to do it, and then normalize parent communication, parent phone calls, parent emails in your school. All right, so what are the big takeaways from today? We talked about how this big frustration is teachers coming to you with tier 1 behaviors before they do that one more thing. And what are the 5 strategies to overcome this frustration? Number 1, pause and view yourself as an escalation officer. Number 2, teach and define tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 behaviors with examples. Strategy number 3, create a before you come to me checklist. You could use ChatGPT to help you with that. Strategy number 4, listen but give it back. And then number 5 is to normalize parent phone calls and teach them how to do it. Your call to action for today's episode is to just pick one strategy and use it the next time a teacher brings you a tier 1 issue. Okay, let's wrap it up. A reminder that I have one coaching spot open right now. Just email me at mark.o.minkus@gmail.com and say, tell me more. I'd love to work with you and help you with your biggest struggle right now. Another reminder, 5 strategies to reduce teacher drama at your school. Go to theprivateschooleader.com/drama. And if you would share this link to this episode or a link to the podcast to another leader in your life or a rising leader at your school, then we can get this content out to those leaders and it will hopefully help them in their leadership journey in private schools. And I've been your host, Mark Minkus. I appreciate you so much and all the hard work that you're doing at your school. Thank you for taking some time to be here today, and I'll see you next time right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And until then, always remember to serve first, lead second, and make a difference.